Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the new evolutions and upgrades that have just gone live in North America. So, first things first, we have Xero Core receiving several different evolutions in terms of new forms to use as subs leaders and weapon assists. So the first one is Green Xero Core, and Green Xero Core I think is kind of a weird card overall. Like, if you look at the super wings, you get another enhanced wood combo or skill boost plus or tape resist. So you can have 4 skill boosts. You have quite a large amount of personal damage when you match 4 or more elements, and then if you match lots of wood combos, you get more team damage. As a whole, this is kind of a weird setup in my opinion overall, because you can't really utilize them on mono green teams because the likelihood of you actually hitting 4 colors is probably low, especially if you're using someone like Nautilus, who is going to take away 2 colors every single turn, so you're just not going to be able to trigger your personal damage multipliers there, and I think that's a little bit of a downside. Furthermore, this active skill gives you no Skyfalls for 10 turns, and pierces through the enemy's damage void for 2 turns. So you no longer need to match a VDP, but for monocolored teams, not a problem. This obviously has some applications for rainbow teams, because voids are a bit of a problem for rainbow teams, but at the same time, Akaini, or I can't say her name properly, like the red-blue girl, she has a solution to this with value in terms of damage reduction and a board changer. So I just feel like it's not going to be utilized really in this form much. But conversely, as a weapon assist, you might find some value there because it gives reasonable awakenings. It's quite similar to the Green Samurai 3 in the sense that it's 1 skill boost and 3 instead of 4 poison resist. But this active skill, which I think is not going to be helpful for, say, like Shura content or arena style content, it can be helpful for farming stuff. Because when you're farming stuff, Skyfalls are a problem because they make your run slower. So tapping this once ensures that there will be no Skyfalls probably for the duration of the dungeon. Furthermore, piercing through the enemy's damage void on an 8-turn cooldown is actually tremendously low because it's also 2 turns. So if the spawn in question has super resolve, you can deal with it because you will have 2 turns of damage void penetration. So it does have value and merits there, but as a whole, I feel like it's definitely quite situational and niche. If you don't feel like you're going to be utilizing this active skill for that farming purposes, I don't think he's going to be that meaningful overall. If we look at his light form, he has the 3-color awakening as a super awakening or a skill boost plus or a VDP, which in turn gives him quite a large amount of damage output. Like 4 of those 3-color things are quite a high amount of damage output. Like, it's reasonably high, especially for rainbow teams. Furthermore, 3 colors is not too bad to hit. Good likelihood you're going to be able to hit 3 colors. You have bonus movement time and you have a poison resist. Furthermore, he has an 8 or 6 turn base cooldown, which gives you a board unlock and then changing to all 5 colors plus hard orbs. And then if you are at 50% health or less, you do cancel damage absorption for a single turn. So 1 turn of damage absorption is great for like Shura 1 and anything else below it. It is irrelevant in Shura 2 because there's no damage absorption. In Shura 3 and Mystic Dimensions, you need more than 1 turn. Shura 3 needs 2 at the minimum, and then Mystic Dimensions, well, you're unlikely to kill Blue Albert in 1 turn, I feel, once he drops below 50%, so you probably need a 2nd turn of coverage. So I just feel like it's not going to be something that can be utilized that well necessarily in like current endgame content, but it is still a 6-turn cooldown, which means you can easily inherit over it. And furthermore, I guess in Mystic Dimensions, if you have another backup way to get damage absorption counter, it's possible that you can utilize them on Canna. You can delay the next floor if it is absorption. Maybe you could make arguments for it, but I just feel like it's going to be a little bit awkward to slot in overall. As a leader, you need to match water, light, and dark at the same time. You have quite meaty stats. Like, it's a reasonable rainbow leader. You get bonus combos, but at the same time, I feel like it's not going to outpace, like, say, Beach Mariel with like this new story Sakuya. They're just a better pairing overall, and I just feel like Xero Core won't necessarily be better because Beach Mariel Sakuya is going to be superior to Fagin or Xero Core plus Sakuya. I'm saying pair Sakuya because she has auto follow-up attack. Probably don't need more combos. Auto follow-up attack just makes resolve spawns much easier. For his weapon assist, you get 60% blind resist, a single skill boost, and jammer resist, which I guess is kind of cool. And that active skill, again, is kind of cool if that 1 turn of damage absorption cancellation can actually be meaningful. But if it's not, it's going to be a bit of an awkward thing, and the cost to evolve is quite high in my opinion, so I wouldn't be that inclined to pursue it. For the new super reincarnated archdemon Lucifer, he can have 4 cross awakenings with his super awakenings, or he could have an extra VDP. Regardless of that, 4 Cross Awakenings is actually a significant amount of personal damage, so he can hit quite hard if you are playing a team that can actually take advantage of this match 5 clause. At this point in time, I feel like there's not too many great places to truly take advantage of it, because if we think of like the best Dark Leader at the moment, it's like Mojito with Yuji. They can trigger off 5 match, but they just work so much better when you match Rows or VDPs. And with only 2 VDPs, not so great. And while crosses are nice, they're not helping the whole team, whereas a Row will give everyone more damage. So I feel like it's a nice thing, but we don't have a super great place to truly utilize him at this exact point in time. With that being said, he does have nice awakenings if we get a nice cross leader in the future. Super blind resist is always helpful, and that VDP at least gives him a chance to do some damage against void spawns. It's not very synergistic with the cross awakening because you need 9 plus 5 or 14 dark orbs. Not the greatest in that sense, but it's something to have, I guess, in the back pocket. In terms of his active skill, the 150,000 damage to one enemy is probably not enough for button farming nowadays anyways. 3 Dark Orbs, okay, and then Void damage and Attribute Absorption for a single turn if your health is full. Now, this is not bad actually, because if we think about it, like, at least you're making Dark Orbs, you get some absorption cancellation. It's for a single turn. It can have merits, say, like in Shura 2, where there is a potential for that color absorb for one turn. Like, one turn is probably all you would need. Like, so that could have some merits there. Anything like that is Shura 1 and below definitely has value there. Shura 3... one turn is not enough for damage absorption, so you'll need to have something else. It will help you solve the face spawns later on that do have two different colors being absorbed, so that could be an option, but most people just delay it because you brought a delay anyways, just a cleaner solution. So I just feel like there's nowhere truly great to truly utilize him at this exact point in time. In terms of his leader skill, he's not a bad leader by any means. Like, you have pretty high stats to gods and devil types, but you don't get damage reduction, which is definitely a bit of a drawback. You do have fixed movement time, so time debuffs are not relevant, but I just feel like it's not the greatest at this point in time. Next is Amino Uzume, and she actually has become an incredibly strong mono fire card because she now has a much stronger cleric role while also having personal damage. She has double 7 combo with a VDP, so she will do damage. And she also has 2 enhanced fire combos, which means for your Rosalind teams, you get more damage, not just for the entire team, but for Rosalind's active skill itself. So everyone does more damage. And even though she only has double 7 with a single VDP, she's probably going to be damage capping in most cases when you match that VDP. And that is significant because it's nice having your clerics actually deal damage. And in terms of her active skill, you get 2 times RCV for 4 turns, so cool, override those RCV debuffs. You get to fully clear Bind and Awoken Binds when you're Bind and Awoken Binds, and then you also will clear Unmatchable if your health is 50% or less. The Unmatchable is conditional. It's an 8-turn cooldown, so it's a little bit awkward in that sense, but if you have something like, say, Wedding Trailer, or like something else that can clear Unmatchable on a regular basis, having 2 partial clerics is actually becoming a bit more feasible at this point in time, because if you look at Shura 3, floor 3 you have Unmatchable, and then floor 4 you have Awoken Bind. So oftentimes you might have to either clear on floor 3 install, or you just ignore the Unmatchable hearts and just grind your way through, or you utilize, like, say, 2 cleric style active skills, like you have something else to clear the Unmatchable, Amino Uzume for the Bind and Awoken Binds after. It is definitely an option. She is a strong card overall, and she also provides those enhanced Heart of Awakenings, which is more than enough for Rosalind teams. Rosalind teams have only 1 times health, and all their effective health comes from damage reduction. So this extra zest of healing potential will not go to waste. It's not complete overkill like Gung Ho Belial. Gung Ho Belial is way too much healing, and she doesn't have personal damage unlike Amino Uzume, so it's just nice to have flexibility, and she's a Pantheon monster. If we look at Reincarnated Perseus, he has large amounts of personal damage with double 10 combo. He has a single TPA, maybe another TPA, or he can have lots of skill boosts or super blind resist. So he does have large personal damage, but there's no VDP. And it's going to be hard, I feel, to slot him in onto mono wood teams, even though he does have large damage output. He definitely can utilize double damage cap, but by not dealing damage against void spawns, it is a bit of a drawback. His dark color coverage does give some merits in Shura 3 specifically, because the best options for the most part tend to be like Freya, because a lot of people have it, and she gives Row, she gives haste, she gives lots of skill boosts. She does have some personal damage, not a bad thing overall, but at least she has that VDP potential, which again may or may not be relevant. The other option would be, say, like Romia, which is much more rare by comparison, much more significant amounts of damage with VDP, so she's obviously a great candidate in that sense. But with that being said, I feel like Perseus is just going to be a little awkward to work in because his active skill doesn't counter any mechanics. It removes orb blocks, which Celica is probably doing anyways, and you get to convert water to wood and fire to heal, and then removing hazards to dark. So, like, it's an active skill that does orb changing, but at this point in time, we need active skills that solve mechanics. It's not solving mechanics, unfortunately. Next are the various upgrades to various cards, and for Light Manoa, she has gained a 5-color bonus damage awakening, so she now has quite a high amount of personal damage. Her base active skill is 3 instead of 4 turns, which is cool, and her leader skill adds 3 combos and gives a bit more damage reduction. So it is definitely an upgrade. Is it the greatest rainbow leader out there? I would say no, but it's nice that you have that option. Xero Core, in his form that no one seems to utilize, has void damage absorption for 2 turns and remove orb blocks instead. It's 2 turns instead of 1 turn. It's 2 turns is the magic number at this point in time, but where can we utilize this Xero Core? He's got a weird myriad of awakenings. He's got TPA, skill charge, VDP. He's all over the place. It's not a form that I've even used once. Next are the green and blue Sonias, and these 2 cards actually received a noticeable buff because now their active skills will clear all bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable. Full clear with orb generation and board unlock. So it's too long of a cooldown at 15 turns, but like I said, having a secondary cleric on a given team can be meaningful. And if we look at their awakenings, they do have large amounts of damage output, so they definitely can potentially fulfill a role on a given team. They do give you a bit of flexibility in the sense that they offer that backup cleric aspect. So like floor 3 to floor 4 in Sure Realm gives you a bit more flexibility. And remember, this bicolor board changer is going to be very easy to make combos off of. If we look at Green Sonia, her board changer has synergy of Nautilus in a sense because you get a board after using Sonia, then Nautilus, you get a board of wood and hard orbs. Not bad. You're probably going to get 2 rows out of it, or maybe a row in VDP and everyone's damage just flies off the chart. Point of the matter is, it's nice to have another cleric style active skill possibly on your team. Yes, the cooldown is too long to rely on them, but it's nice, like I said, for those back-to-back encounters you may have. For blue and red Odin, their awakenings have been slightly upgraded. Like blue Odin now has more skill boost. He has more time extend by a little bit, and you get to give you void damage for a single turn. This void damage for a single turn is meaningful because you need damage reduction of some way in Shura 3 most likely, and having 100% damage reduction in Mystic Dimensions is valuable because if you encounter Black or Dark Albert, he is a problem, and you may not be able to kill him in that 7-turn window. But if you have 100% damage reduction, you now have 14 turns to kill him. Very doable for sure. So it does give a little bit more options. He does only have damage with a VDP, but at least his active skill now gives value. In theory, it also can let you stall. Obviously, losing light and hearts, mostly losing the hearts, is a little bit drawback, but because you don't die, you don't have to worry about the healing aspect. And then Red Odin follows a similar thought process of like gaining a bit more skill boost, gaining a bit more time extend. Basically, the exact same thing I said for Blue Odin applies to Red Odin. For Dark Kali, she got a big buff. Her awakenings now give you 6 skill boosts and a 7th with her super awakening. 7 skill boosts. That's amazing when you think about it. She also has gained she has always had 777 combo, but now she has the 5 attribute damage awakening. So that's 4.5 times 8. That is 36 times personal damage. That is now suddenly a significant amount. 8 times, not so great. 36 times, quite significant. So, in all honesty, Dark Kali is now, in my opinion, one of the stronger Rainbow subs, because not only does she have meaty personal damage and a huge amount of skill boost, her active skill has been buffed to fully clear unmatchable. Again, these partial cleric style skills are actually starting to come into fashion, so to speak, because, like I mentioned, we're going to be having these types of mechanics back to back, and having just one cleric may put some strains if you can't stall that easily. Dark Kali can definitely plug that hole. Like, say, on your Story Sakuya teams. Sakuya can clear those bind, awoken binds, and unmatchable, but it's a 10-turn cooldown. Not always the greatest. You might have Sloth alongside, or maybe you want to bring Dark Kali, because Dark Kali now does way more damage compared to Sloth. It's just something nice to have up your sleeve overall. For Blue Sharius, he just has Awakening buffs. He does more damage when you match 3 colors. The problem is, I don't really foresee myself utilizing him as a card because the active skill doesn't solve mechanics. Again, if you don't solve mechanics, it's quite hard to justify the inclusion unless you're doing something spectacular. And sadly, the something spectacular doesn't exist. Like, you have damage, but a lot of things have damage at this point in time. For Blue Sharius in his dark form, they have more personal damage for Rainbow, but again, that active skill just gives haste, board unlock, and a rainbow board. Not enough, I feel, overall. Like, you're just a damage stick. Like, it's cool, but we don't need damage sticks when you have things like Beach Mario and Story Sequoia double capping of relative ease anyways, while providing meaningful active skills. But Raphael has now jumped up to becoming one of the stronger rainbow options because he has a 7 combo Super Awakening. So he has 3 7 combos and 2 4 attribute damage awakenings. That is, I think, about 98 times personal damage or something. A comically high amount of personal damage. Amazing contender for double damage cap. You're going to be double capping on him with relative ease. Furthermore, his active skill is actually something meaningful. You void damage for 1 turn. Remember, that 100% damage reduction is invaluable in Mystic Dimensions because you can deal with Black Albert. You can get 4 turns of stalling on the Carbuncles, maybe more because you can just completely tank their enrage hits. You will be able to tank Hexazeon later on. You can tank whatever hit. Like, it's just nice having a massive shield. It's a great panic button. Nothing is going to kill you at that point in time. And like I said, huge amounts of personal damage. A fantastic candidate for double damage cap. And he also has 8 latent slots, so you get 2 SDRs because yay! Looking at Super Reincarnated Horus, they still have 3 skill boosts. They do gain the 5 attribute damage awakening, so they have much better personal damage for Rainbow. It's nowhere near Raphael's level, but it's something. And they have a 2-turn base cooldown that gives you a time buff and orb unlock. The time buff, again, is meaningful. Having some sort of counter to mechanics is helpful in a skill. And with a 2-turn base cooldown, you can inherit virtually any kind of active skill on top of it. Haste, delay, damage reduction, damage absorption counter, whatever it may be. Horus is flexible in that sense. Obviously, he's been much more pushed in towards Rainbow with that damage awakening, but you still can obviously utilize him on, like, say, mono fire teams if you're desperate, I guess. For Andromeda, her active skill is now a 5 instead of a 6-turn cooldown. Cool. For Yamato, I feel like Yamato possibly has some value compared to Andromeda, mostly because, like, Andromeda, I guess you could argue is a sub for Royal Oak, but, like, we have lots of options, I feel, overall. And again, because the active skill isn't countering any mechanic, it's a little bit problematic, I feel. Whereas Yamato at least has the Cross Awakening, which can clear the Sticky Blinds. Sticky Blinds can be annoying, and I guess the color coverage may be helpful for Rosalind teams, but Sticky Blind is nice to get rid of because it is an annoying mechanic. Both cards, if I'm not mistaken, oh, actually, sorry, just Yamato has the Recover Mind Awakening, so in theory, he can also take the Spinner Clear Latent, and you can just clear spinners by matching rows of hearts. Nice to do. His active skill makes hearts. I think Yamato does have a bit more value in that sense overall. For Archdemon Lucifer, he has the same active skill as his new Super Reincarnated form. Again, that 1-turn conditional damage absorption and attribute absorption is a little awkward, but maybe you can find a way to make it work. Ami no Uzume, her active skill is buffed, but we really just want to make her Super Reincarnated form. Perseus, again, that buff that we mentioned already. And then finally we have Astria, and she just gained a buff to her leader skill. And, like, cool, you have more bulk, but it's just not a leader skill that we're really utilizing at this point in time because they're just stronger things overall. So, with that being said, this comes to the end of all the various buffs and new evolutions. For sure, Raphael and Dark Kali just gained significant amounts of value. Raphael, huge amounts of damage with relative ease with a meaningful active skill. Same with Dark Kali, you're a partial cleric now with sizable personal damage. I also like the buffs to Sonia's. I don't know if I'd be able to utilize them, but it's just nice to have these buffs, I feel. And then the new awakenings for Ami no Uzume is definitely probably the strongest one overall. An incredibly strong fire cleric, especially have another way to deal with unmatchable on a more reliable basis. So, with that being said, let me know which of these cards you find most significant or meaningful to your own individual monster box, and have you made any of them at this point in time? Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.